It's 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I learned a lot today about glucose and insulin, and I'm going to share what I learned with you, and about there's certain orders of foods that we eat, how it changes how our body releases insulin to combat the glucose that we eat. I feel like crap when I eat sugary foods if I eat them without other foods, and I notice a difference before or after in which in order I eat my foods. If I have sugary foods before protein or fiber or fats, I go through a massive crash, but there's a reason for that, and I'm going to explain it to you. Just to preface, I am no scientist on food and nutrition. This is just my own research. I go through rabbit holes of learning about the body and nutrition and how we function sometimes. I find it really interesting, and maybe you get something out of it too. So this is going to be more of a chill, relaxed kind of setting. Get comfortable, put me in the background. I really don't care. If it's useful to you, it is. So what is glucose? Glucose is a simple sugar that our body uses for energy. Our brains almost exclusively run on glucose. I don't know what else we run on. I just know that we use a lot of glucose in our brain. Hence why when you have a glucose spike and you crash, you feel brain fog, you feel irritable, you feel just out of it, because you've been on such a high from the sugars and then you've crashed below a regular rate, then you feel like crap. So there's a little science behind why you feel like ass, because your brain has just run out of its fuel. Insulin is basically the key that opens the pathways for your glucose to go where it needs to go. The insulin sends your glucose either to be stored as glycogen or to be used readily as glucose. When your body stores glycogen, it stores it in the muscle cells. So this is your insulin opening the pathways to your muscle cells to be stored as glycogen for later use, and as well to your liver to be stored as later use as glycogen. Glucose can also be stored as fat. This is your insulin sending or opening a pathway for the glucose to be sent to your fat cells, to your fat to be stored as a fat cell. The glycogen that you've stored in your muscles and your liver eventually get transformed into glucose again when you need to use them by a hormone called glucagon. This hormone is triggered by stress, cortisol, adrenaline, usually when you are feeling those things, or if you're fasting because your body's in like a state of shock. It's saying, where's my food? Where's my energy? So that's when your glucagon hormone will tell your liver and your muscles, it's saying, hey, turn what you stored back into glucose for me to use. Those two areas, the muscles and the liver, where you've stored your glucose as glycogen, are your main defenses first. After it burns through those, then it takes the stuff from your fat cells and starts to use that as energy. I didn't really dive too much into the fat cells converting into energy. That's not the path that I wanted to go. That's more about fat loss. That's not what I'm focusing on. The main focus today is going to be about how the order in which we eat the certain types of food, protein, fatty acids, fiber, and carbohydrates change the way our glucose spikes and how our insulin can react. So what is a glucose spike? A glucose spike is basically when your glucose rises too quickly for your pancreas and your insulin to handle. When it rises too quickly, your pancreas kind of just freaks out and it dumps a whole lot of insulin out to send your glucose to everywhere it needs to go. So you've risen really, really quickly, really, really high, and then your body's just been like, send it everywhere it needs to go, and it drops almost just as quickly as it has risen. And this is why your body kind of goes into a state of shock after a glucose spike. It's saying, where the heck did all my energy just go? Why can't I use it? Why do I feel like ass? I can't think straight. I feel groggy. I feel tired. I feel sick, nauseous. It's because you've just dropped out of the high. So that's what insulin is, that is what glucose is, and that is what a glucose spike is. Now that you understand the ways that our body uses glucose and glycogen and the hormones that are involved in that process, now I'm going to talk about the order in which we eat those foods and how it can actually aid us in the glucose in our body. So we've got 4 main types of foods: protein, fatty acids, fiber, and carbohydrates, as I said before. Carbohydrates, that is where we get most, if not all, of our glucose. This can be found in grains. Fruit and vegetables also have carbohydrates. It's just a matter of how much compared to fiber. What happens to carbohydrates when we eat them? Carbohydrates are made up of simple sugars, which are your glucose, fructose. They're things that are readily available for your body to almost instantly process into an energy. So when we eat carbohydrates without anything else prepping our system, it almost shoots straight through us. and it gets digested pretty quickly, and our body's just readily using everything. So if we eat a lot of carbohydrates without things like protein, fiber, or fatty acids, without those, our body soaks up, gets all that glucose from the carbohydrates, and doesn't know what to do with it. Protein, fiber, and fatty acids all play a role if you eat them before in slowing down your gut. When your gut slows down, the carbohydrates you eat after that then process slower in your gut, therefore a steadier glucose release. Fiber turn into like a gel-like consistency in your gut, which physically slows down your gut digestive system. Proteins slow down your gut physically and hormonally. When you eat proteins, they go through a multi-step process by turning into amino acids, and then there's receptors in your gut that point out and detect those amino acids, and they trigger hormones to come in and physically slow down your gut. And because it's a multi-step process, it actually travels through your gut slower physically. Fatty acids, on the other hand, have more of a unique process. We've all heard of Ozempic, right? We've all heard of Ozempic. That is a GLP-1, which stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. This is a hormone that our guts naturally produce, and this can actually increase with fatty acids, specifically omega-9s and omega-6s. Omega-9s are your monounsaturated fats. Your gut has certain receptors in your small intestines that can point out and detect, like a little detectorist, these monounsaturated fats. And it says, hey, I see you, I'm going to trigger this hormone, a GLP-1, which is basically the same as Ozempic, just a different kind. These GLP-1s tell your gut to digest slower, as well as telling you that you're full. So eating fatty acids, protein, fiber, 10 to 20 minutes before you eat carbohydrates naturally slows down your gut, therefore having a slow, steady release of glucose from the carbohydrates so your pancreas can handle and send out the relative amounts of insulin to then open the right pathways. Therefore, no glucose spike and no crash. Another interesting thing, even before you eat your foods, is your vagal tone. You've all heard of the vagus nerve. It's the one that runs from all the way up here, all the way down to your gut. The vagal tone is how active that nerve is. So even before you eat, you're actually triggering that vagal tone and stimulating the vagus nerve by looking and tasting and chewing your food. It prepares your pancreas to release the right amount of insulin for the food you're going to eat. So if you eat something kind of sweet or something savory and you spend time looking, feeling, tasting, just really immersed in your food before it even travels through your system, it gives your body time to prepare for what kind of food you're going to eat. So your taste buds, your mouth, your smell is all picking up, let's say, sweet. Your pancreas is going to release a larger and shorter and quicker amount of insulin to then send it out at the right pace without having a glucose spike. How crazy is that? So that was my quick fire lesson on the order in which you eat your foods and how it affects your glucose and your insulin. I hope it was helpful. I probably could have dived a little bit deeper into the certain foods and how they actually do that, e.g. fatty acids. Omega-9s are long chains, therefore they're longer to break down, as well as the fat itself is harder to break down. But I just wanted to make it quick, digestible. But if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them. I am not a nutritionist or guru, so just wanted to share this knowledge with you. Anyway, I need to go to sleep now. Good night.